Hello everybody and welcome to the Whiskey Dictionary. Today we're going to be doing a woodworking build and we're also going to talk about single barrel releases, and I'll talk to you a little bit about my experience doing a single barrel pick with 3-chord. It was a pretty cool experience and I had a lot of fun with it. So I really wanted to remember this and just kind of celebrate it every time I walk into my office here, my studio, and be able to look at it. So what I did is I kept bottle number 1 and I thought to myself, how can I display this that won't look tacky, but it'll also be kind of cool and repeatable for any other single barrel picks that I do. So here's the idea. I'm going to take the barrel head, I'm going to drill some holes, and I'm going to cut it away. And then I'm going to put a little shelf underneath it, put the bottle on there, hang it on the wall. Seems pretty simple, and I think it will be, at least if what's in my head comes out in physical manifestation. So let's go ahead and get right into the build. If you have no interest in that, skip ahead, you'll find some time codes down below, and I'll talk a little bit about the actual single barrel process. So let's go jump into it. Alright, so the barrel head, as you would expect, is fine. It's a little flimsy, and if I end up with just the barrel head, then no problem. I'm gonna just have to like glue it or probably put some nails through it or something to stabilize it. The problem is this ring, as you would expect, kind of came off. And I'm trying to get it back on right now, and it's pretty close. What I think I need to do is get this thing flipped over intact and find a way to secure all of these pieces. So I'll figure that out. I'm not too worried about it, and I want to make sure that this thing stays tight. So funny thing, I actually took out one of the staves, and that seems to have done okay as far as everything kind of being together. I think it wasn't actually as much pressure, which doesn't make a lot of sense, but somehow it's actually keeping things a little bit more connected. So next step is going to be to take the jigsaw and get this nice and close. I might have to use a chisel, but that's going to be the next step. All right, so it's a few hours later. I had to go back to work, but I wanted to put some wood glue on here. So I'm kind of thinking that if I put it on the inner ring, I will be able to keep this whole thing pretty tightly secured together. Then I'll be able to take a bit more of this off with the jigsaw, and I think everything will just kind of work out, but we'll see. Either way, this is going to be fun to try. All right, so I cut out a few pieces so I can kind of make a bit of a shelf that I am going to then rest the bottle on with the barrel head behind it. So it's going to kind of screw in from the back, and this will be resting. I'm going to stain this, I'm going to glue it, I'm going to do all that stuff, and we're going to just skip till when that's done. All right, so I've got my barrel head here. I've got my little shelf that I just built. I'm going to paint this black, and then it's going to attach right here. Now the cool thing is, so this was a little weak in the face because there's really nothing keeping it together. So I put a little bit of just wood in the back to keep it all together. So the bottle is going to sit on the shelf after I paint it, and it's basically going to just go right here. And I think that'll look pretty good. My shelf is all painted. I've got it nice black, it looks pretty good, it's matte color. I'm gonna put that right about here. I'm gonna check it for level, make sure I'm not gonna slide the bottle around. Drill a few holes, and I'll show you the finished product. All right, so I've got my barrel head, I've got my little shelf that I've built. It's level, it's just, you know, rolling. And then the bottle. So this will look really good on the wall. I think I'm gonna spray it with some sort of polyurethane or something like that to give it a little shine. But ultimately this looks pretty cool. It smells really good every time I drill into it. But I think this will look pretty good. This ring here was a pain in the butt, and it's still a little fragile. So once I get this up on the wall, I'm not concerned about it, but I'm interested to see how this thing goes up, and hopefully it stays together. Well, I had a little bit of a catastrophe. As I mentioned, this metal piece is just not on very well. I was hammering in a nail because frankly it wasn't perfectly level, and I had to fix it. And I shouldn't have fixed it. So now I'm gonna see if maybe I could just take the outside pieces off and just have the barrel head. I liked it with the metal on there, but I think I'm just gonna take that piece off. Or maybe I'll glue all of these wooden pieces on, but I think I'm just gonna take off the metal piece and do with this what I can. Oh, that stinks so bad. But oh well, I'll make the best of it. The good news is I actually think this looks pretty awesome without it, so I'm totally okay with this. I still need to spray it down, but boy, the last hour has been miserable. All right, here it is up on the wall. I think this looks pretty awesome. I've got bottle number 1 right here, and I just think this looks super cool. I walk by it every day on my way to work, which is right there, and I just get to see it, and I get to know that I made this and that I picked the bottle, and the whole thing is just really cool. It's a bit inspiring, actually. Every time I sit down to film, I'm like, hey, you know, that thing's sweet, and I want to do it again. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about the process of barrel picking, just because a lot of you might not know what actually goes into it. So I think it'd be kind of a fun thing to explore, and then we'll do a little nose, a taste, and we'll talk about it. All right, now that you guys have seen my little project about the barrel head, I thought it'd be cool to tell you about the barrel picking process. So obviously if things were normal, I'd be in a distillery pulling right out of the barrel. I know some of my fellow whiskey tubers are doing that. Not really a thing I feel comfortable doing at the moment. So instead, what I did is I had Chord send me samples. And what they did is they ended up sending me 4 samples, and I tasted all 4, and my initial reaction was, these are all not good. Actually, I remember one of them tasted like dish soap, which is just a sign that they cut it the wrong time. And then the other 3 were just meh, right? Like nothing I wanted to put my name on. So then I sent them back and I said, hey, all right, so could you give me 3 more samples or some more samples? And they sent 3 more. And one of them, the very first one I tasted, of course, was still terrible. And I was like, oh no, this is awful. And then I tasted the second one and it was like, oh my God. It was just so good. Just immediately, it immediately turned my whole mentality around on the whole process. And then I was like, okay, well, what's the third one taste like? I tasted that one, and that one was also really good. But ultimately, what I ended up picking was that second one, which is what this ended up being. So thankfully, I got it right on the, 6th try? So I ended up giving these some of this sample over to another friend of mine who's really, really good at picking barrels. He actually owns a liquor store, and he completely agreed. He was like, this is definitely the one that you want. So all in all, it was perfect. So let me tell you a little bit about this whiskey. They import whiskey from Kentucky, Tennessee, North Carolina, and Indiana. They're actually looking just for a flavor profile. So they have their whiskey be aged in heavy toast 4 char number 1 barrels, French and American oak hybrid char number 3 barrels, and barrels imported from Cognac that are not charred, and barrels from Spain that are not charred. This particular barrel pick was barreled February 10th, 2017. It was bottled June 23rd, 2021. It's 60% corn, 36% rye, 4% malted barley, and it's 4.5-year old. All right, now the part that I've been waiting for. Now, keep in mind that I picked this whiskey because I really like this, so I'm gonna have a lot of nice things to say, but don't take it as being, dishonest or anything. It's not, because I picked this because I loved it. So this is going to be me gushing for about the next minute or so. All right, on the nose, let's go ahead and do this. Now, clearly I've drank quite a bit of this, so I could pretty much tell you this off the top of my head, but let's do it anyway. Something could always pop up. Now, one of the ways that I would describe this whiskey is a cross between Old Forester 1920 and like a Jack Daniel's single barrel. I think that there is kind of that higher ABV smell that the Jack Daniel's would give you, mixed with just that heavy cherry nose that you get from Old Forester. And the two of them together mixed with just like a little bit of musty corn in there as well. The ABV is very high, so it's not quite burning, but it's threatening to. You get caramel for sure, heavy on the oak, honey for absolutely. I really like this. The cherry is very prominent for me, and I find that that's something I always enjoy in a bourbon, so I'm not surprised I picked one with heavy cherry, but it's definitely like a darker cherry, like Luxardo, just that syrupy, delicious. Very sugary. Forget if I said honey or not, but honey for sure. It's classic bourbon notes, right? But where it differentiates is that dark cherry mixed with a little bit of that musty corn, and just it reminds me of those other two, Old Forester 1920 and Jack Daniel's Single Barrel. All right, let's go ahead and give this a taste. One thing I will actually say, at 4.5 years, like bourbon is typical in that age range, but the ABV has mellowed out pretty considerably on the nose at 4.5 years. So it's worth mentioning. All right, cheers. I will say it's been a little while since I've tasted this, and in fact the last time I had this was actually at one of my friends' houses who bought a bottle, because I didn't want to finish this bottle off before I did the review. And if you remember back to the beginning of this video, it was at least like maybe about a third of it left, much less now. All right, so talking about the taste here, this is just dancing across my palate. The ABV, in my mind, is one of the more balanced that I can think of at such a high ABV. I think it's 58, it's something weird, hold on. 58.28, I wasn't gonna remember that. So it's 58.28%, and it just, like I said, it sounds late, but it's like dancing across my whole mouth, right? Like I'm feeling it everywhere, but it's not burning. And it just tastes really good. Again, you're getting the heavy cherry, darker cherries. Honey is very prominent here, much less on the caramel. I'm definitely getting like a green apple taste. I'm excited that I can finish this bottle now that I've filled this. Okay. The ABV is now a little bit more so in the throat. Oh man, I just am enjoying this, sorry. Okay, so caramel for sure. It wasn't there on the first sip, it's definitely there on the second sip. It really just reminds me of a single barrel proof to some degree. I know I've said single barrel earlier, but the ABV is kind of kicking it up a little bit. It's reminding me of some of the better MGPs that I've had. I'm trying, some of the names are, of course, escaping me at the moment. What else? All right, let's be more definitive here. Actually, you know, there's some mint going on as well, which just hit me after the finish of the second sip here. Oh, I really enjoy this. I really enjoy this. I wouldn't recommend making a cocktail out of this unless you really just want to, but I've tried it, like a Manhattan or whatever, and it's one of those, like, I mean, you don't make a Manhattan out of anything. You make it out of, like, usually lower, I mean, you can do whatever you want, but I wouldn't typically do something like that out of something this high ABV or with this particular flavor. I usually save my Manhattans for something that I kind of want to polish off. But anyway, all right, let's go ahead and just talk real quick. Obviously, I would recommend you get this, but that feels a little bit pushy. So let's just put it this way. If you would like to get a bottle of this, there's not a ton of them left, because unfortunately it took me a while to make this video, so they've been naturally selling. But you can follow the link on my website, thewhiskeydictionary.com. These bottles are $50, and then shipping will work together. Depending on where you live in the States, it could be anywhere from like a few bucks to like 11. But let's figure that out. And send me an email, thewhiskeydick@gmail.com. And I really think if you buy this, you're going to love it. Also, the sooner they sell out, the sooner I'll probably do another barrel pick. And I've got some really good ones in mind. Actually, I've been talking with Jason from the Mash and Drum. There's one that we might do together. It could be a lot of fun. So either way, thank you for joining me here. This has been just a fun one to film and just kind of enjoy. I'm dying to finish this bottle. I'll probably finish it today. And I just, you know, I'm happy that I got to even have this experience. It's been really fun. So thank you very much for joining me, and I hope you have a great rest of your night. Cheers. So one thing that I totally expected to happen was that using a jigsaw, I chose a jigsaw because I thought I'd be able to get a little closer to the metal. Turns out not really. Thought about using a circular saw, but decided to go against that as well. So I am already a little worried about this. Oh no! So that didn't work. Oh no! Gonna try to fix this. Alright, so I get most of them in there. So definitely be careful of that.